Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic Podcast, where I give you practical Stoic advice for modern times. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/Simon Drew. I also do one-on-one mindset coaching, and you can book in your first free consultation by going to risetothegoodlife.com/coaching. On Facebook, you can join my group, the Practical Stoic Mastermind. But for now, enjoy this episode. Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic Podcast. Today's episode is different to others because rather than having my own input into the teachings of the Stoics, I'm going to let Seneca do the vast majority of the talking. See, in Seneca's 53rd letter, he shares a story about a trip he took that went horribly wrong, and it's always been one of my favorite stories from Seneca. I wanted to use this passage in an episode for so long, if only so that you could all sit back and appreciate Seneca's ability to tell a captivating story, but I just haven't decided the right angle. Anyway, I was recently reading it again, and I decided that everything about this story was perfect, including his interpretation of what it could teach the reader. So today I'm simply going to read the majority of this letter to you. Nobody could teach us better than Seneca, and I hope that you get as much as I have out of the following passage. Everything said for the rest of the podcast comes directly from Seneca's 53rd letter. Enjoy. I wonder whether there's anything I couldn't be persuaded into now, after letting myself be persuaded recently into taking a trip by sea. The sea was quite calm when we cast off. The sky was certainly heavily overcast, with the kind of dark clouds that generally break into a squall or downpour. But in spite of the uncertain, threatening skies, I thought it would be perfectly feasible to make it across the few miles from your Parthenope over to Puteoli. And so, with the object of getting the crossing over quicker, I headed straight for Nisus, over the open water to cut out all the intervening curves of the coastline. Now, when I had got so far across that it made no odds whether I went on or turned back, first of all, the smoothness which had tempted me to my undoing disappeared. There was no storm as yet, but a heavy swell was running by then, and the waves were steadily getting rougher. I began asking the helmsman to put me ashore somewhere. He kept saying the coast was a rugged one, without a haven anywhere, and that there was nothing he feared quite so much in a storm as a lee shore. I was in far too bad a way, though, for any thought of possible danger to enter my head, as I was suffering the torments of that sluggish brand of seasickness that will not bring one relief, the kind that upsets the stomach without clearing it. So I put pressure on him and compelled him, willy-nilly, to make for the shore. Once we were close to the shore, there was no waiting on my part for anything to be done in the manner compelled by Virgil, bows faced seawards or anchor cast from bow. Remembering my training as a long-standing devotee of cold baths, I dived into the sea in just the way a cold water addict ought to, in my woolly clothes. You can imagine what I suffered as I crawled out over the rocks, as I searched for a route to safety or fought my way there. It made me realize how right sailors are in being afraid of a lee shore. What I endured in my inability to endure my then self is beyond belief. You can take it from me that the reason Ulysses got himself wrecked everywhere was not so much because Neptune was against him from the day he was born, but because he was given to seasickness like me. It'll take me 20 years to reach my destination too, if I ever have to journey anywhere by sea. As soon as I had settled my stomach, I began to reflect how we are attended by an appalling forgetfulness of our weaknesses, even the physical ones which are continually bringing themselves to our notice. A slight feverishness may deceive a person, but when it has developed to the point where a genuine fever is raging, it will extract an admission that something is wrong from even a tough and hardened individual. Suppose our feet ache, with little needling pains in the joints. At this stage, we pass it off and say that we've sprained an ankle or strained something in exercise or other. But once it starts bending the feet in just the way an ankle rack does, and makes them both misshapen, We then confess that we've got the gout. With afflictions of the spirit, though, the opposite is the case. The worse a person is, the less he feels it. You needn't feel surprised. A person sleeping lightly perceives impressions in his dreams and is sometimes even aware during the sleep that he is asleep, whereas a heavy slumber blots out even dreams and plunges the mind too deep for consciousness of self. Why does no one admit his failings? Because he is still deep in them. It's the person who's awakened who recounts his dream, and acknowledging one's failings is a sign of health. So let us rouse ourselves so that we may be able to demonstrate our errors. But only philosophy will wake us. Only philosophy will shake us out of that heavy sleep. Devote yourself entirely to her. You're worthy of her. She's worthy of you. Fall into each other's arms. Say a firm, plain no to every other occupation. There's no excuse for your pursuing philosophy merely in moments when occasion allows. Away with every obstacle and leave yourself free to acquire a sound mind, something which no one ever attains if he's busy with other things. Philosophy wields an authority of her own. She doesn't just accept time, she grants one it. She's not something one takes up in odd moments. She's an active, full-time mistress, ever-present and demanding. Give your whole mind to her. Sit at her side and pay her constant court, and an enormous gap will widen between yourself and other men. You'll end up far in advance of all mankind, and not far behind the gods themselves. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Practical Stoic Podcast. I hope it's been valuable for you, and if you'd like to support the show, then you can go to patreon.com/Simon Drew. If you'd like to try mindset coaching with me, then you can book your first free consultation by going to risetothegoodlife.com/coaching. To join the community, just go to Facebook and search for the Practical Stoic Mastermind. The links to all of these places are included in the show notes, but for now, this is Simon Drew signing out.